Hello friends and sunflowers, my name is Lena and welcome back to my channel. So, the Dark Moon is finally back. The webtoon specifically. It went on hiatus for several months. And it's finally back and I want to talk about it here. I was doing like weekly videos as they came out before, and I will continue to do Dark Moon and the Star Seekers. I'm going to take a break on Choco and maybe cover it all at once in the future. But yeah, Star Seekers isn't coming out for I think 2 weeks still, so it'll just be Dark Moon for a couple of weeks. And then yeah, so I'm very excited. I'm very happy that it's finally back. I will say the web novel has continued to trek on, despite the fact that that's probably the one that actually needed a rewrite. Before I dive into the details of the webtoon that came out, the new chapter. What number is it? 13? 13. Okay, I still got this. So, even though we're on the 13th chapter for this, we're on like chapter, I don't know, 30 something, I think, in the web novel. And I have obviously read the chapter going into this video of chapter 13 of the webtoon. And I do want to say, nothing like this happens in the web novel. There were already differences. For example, Suha in the webtoon is infinitely better. She's got a lot more personality and a lot more things driving her. She hates vampires, first off, like, that's such an interesting point for her. The other one just has like no opinion. Obviously we see the vampires, we see the werewolves in both of these stories, and in fact the werewolves is where we start off this chapter. So previously on chapter 12, Suha had seen Chris, who she thought was killed by vampires as a child, and so she sees him and he's sort of mysterious. He's probably a vampire. And then he appears in her dreams. So one thing, oh my god, there's so much. This is actually about chapter 12 a little bit, which came out months ago, but like, I did assume that her dream was going to actually show reality. So I did assume that she was running towards being able to meet with Chris. And I thought we were going to get some Chris answers. It's not what happened. So in the web novel, she has this ability where she can turn into fog, like literally turn herself into a non-physical form and just like become fog. I think we've seen it in music videos such as Fever. I think that the black fog, I think that's Suha. Could potentially be someone else with the same ability, but we're not going there right now. But basically that's kind of what I'm picturing. She's fog. And in the web novel it was kind of like a plot point that she didn't realize that she was turning into fog, and she just assumed she was having all these like vivid dreams. So she has this dream, she's on the beach talking to Chris, and so I'm like, oh my gosh, this is it. We're gonna figure out that she can turn into fog, and this has this extra ability she didn't know about beyond her like super strength, and she's actually gonna run and see Chris. That's not what happened. First off, we get hit with the information that it was a full moon, and there is an eclipse happening, which crazy. Second, she meets the wolves, like runs past it to the beach area, and then she runs into Khan as well as the wolves. The wolves kind of looked like, I guess, menacing. They're very big, but they obviously also know who she is. Like, I don't think they lose lucidity, but the fact that they all saw her is really funny, so just remember that. If you've read this, then you probably know where I'm going with that. Khan specifically she meets on the beach instead of Chris, which part of me is thinking that in an alternate universe, she meets Chris on the beach, but in this universe, she meets Khan. Dimension, universe. I'm using the word dimension and universe interchangeably here because there's some dimensional stuff going on that I'm waiting for an explanation on. So she meets Khan, and at first you're just like, whoa, he's like blushing a lot. Like, oh, I thought it was really funny because I thought it was because he got caught like partially transformed on a full moon, which, by the way, why is he only partially transformed? I found this whole scene very cute. I thought it was funny. Anyways, he walks her home because it's dangerous out. Nothing happens beyond that at that night. But then, and this, I still laugh about it too. She meets Helly in the library like sometime later, and they get to talking. And I can't believe how ridiculous this is in like a good way. Like, this is hilarious. Like, this is comedy to me because it's so coincidental. But he's like, oh yeah, like, blah blah blah, werewolves on the full moon. And then she's like, so what if there was like a lunar eclipse on the full moon? And he's like, oh, well, that's when, you know, they would essentially imprint on the first person that they meet. Well, actually he says the first woman they see that night, but that seems a little bit, you know, I assume there should be, I feel like there should be some leniency there because, like, non-straight people exist, and then people who are women exist, and maybe they would be straight, so maybe they wouldn't fall in love with the first woman they see necessarily. But I think for the purpose of their storytelling, they're just like, the first woman they see, and it happens to be Suha, because, yeah. So that brings me back to the whole pack situation where the entire pack looked like it was looking at her. Did they also all fall in love with her, but then Khan was the only one who was talking to her? This is the same thing as with the vampires, where they all just... It's so funny. It is so funny, you guys. I can't. And then Suha's like, oh, yeah, because there was one, like, a week ago. And it's funny, I happened to run into Khan during that time. And Helly is just like, you did what? You ran into who? Because he knows that Khan is a werewolf. And he's like, I have competition. Oh my god, it's so funny. I feel like I'm, like, laughing too much at this, but every time I think about it, it's just... I do want to say, he's like, oh, where did you see a lunar eclipse? But, like, don't they, like, heavily advertise lunar eclipses? Like, he's like, where did you see one? But his face in this scene, I ran into him there. Oh my god. Poor Helly. He's going through it. He's like... Oh my god, they've fallen in love with her now. What can I do? I have no idea where they're going with this. That's literally the last frame of this chapter, and it is so funny to me. I'm trying to figure out, like, where are they going to go with this story, where they're all in love with Suha, because I do feel like there's some sort of, like, she's, like, the one who can command both of them. And there's already been some hints at, like, oh, they listen to what she says. She makes them want to, like, listen to what she says. And it has something to do with her and her abilities. I'm not 100% sure. But it's just, oh my god, it's so funny. It is so funny. And it came completely out of nowhere for me because, again, it is not in the web novel at all. Oh my god. Likewise, actually, nothing that really happened in this webtoon chapter happened that I can think of in any of the actual music videos. Obviously, we saw the beach, which they were in the Tamed Dashed music video, but beyond, like, the beach just being the location, the actual events happening, we've never seen happen in any of the music videos, as far as I'm aware. But it does make me think that the music video, Future Perfect, has some elements of the web novel in it, and some elements of the webtoon, because I haven't talked about the Future Perfect music video yet, but in that music video it kind of looks like Suha maybe got kidnapped or something like that, which hasn't happened yet in the web novel, but there are other things like the railgun matchbox that appeared that have been in the web novel, so I'm thinking it's like a combination of the two. Either that or the web novel is, like, some kind of draft. And isn't necessarily what happened, because, like, there have been a bunch of rewrites that have happened for the webtoon now. And so I'm like, okay, they're clearly focused on advertising the webtoon, and the web novel kind of just feels like they're just putting it out, and then they're like, okay, we've done it, let's focus on the webtoon. Because I think the webtoon is where the profit is coming from, which makes sense to me, because the company is not dealing with the web novel properly, in my opinion. It's not well written. Like, it's actually, like, I love reading, and I have trouble reading it. It is so difficult to read. Like, I prefer reading philosophy, heavy philosophy over this, and heavy philosophy is very tiring to read, if you've ever tried to read it. Like, it is so, like, painful to read. The second is that in Korean and in Japanese, the web novel is for free up to, like, some of the latest chapters. So it basically works the same as, like, how the webtoon is, where it's, like, the chapters become free after a certain amount of time. That is not the case on Wattpad, which is the English and Spanish version. You have to pay for the whole thing except for the first chapter, which is, like, obviously there's people who've paid for it. You can watch ads to get the coins, which is how I've been reading it, but I would never purposefully pay money for it, like, unless I was desperate for whatever reason to read it. And so it's not well written, it's not released for free, there's no incentive to continue reading it. Like, even wanting to know the story is not enough of an incentive for me to want to read it. I read it because I know I want to cover it, but I'm not necessarily enjoying reading it, you know what I mean? The webtoon, on the other hand, personally, I've actually really enjoyed reading it, and I am going to purchase the Fast Pass. I'm reading ahead, but I'm also only reading ahead one chapter at a time, then filming about it. So you will hear my genuine thoughts and predictions in the videos that I make, even if I've been reading from the Fast Pass. Because I'm moving, so it just makes so much more sense for me to be able to do it when I have time and then release it. You know what I mean? Anyways, so I hope that you enjoyed my, like, reaction, I guess, to this chapter. I'm so happy it's back. I've actually really missed the webtoons. I'm really excited for this. I really like it. I feel like they're kind of going, like, a more comedic route. Obviously there's romance, like, that's one of the main genres of this webtoon, and story of Dark Moon is romance, but I also feel like it's romance without a specific romantic end. I could be wrong about that, like, you know, but it does feel like it's maybe not with a specific romantic ending. But I also kind of am like, okay, I feel like they're pushing for Suha and Heli, but I also really like Solon, and Khan was hilarious. So yeah, did you read this chapter? I hope you did, because otherwise I spoiled the whole chapter. Please let me know what you think in the comments about this chapter. All of my social media is linked in the description below, so follow me there. Make sure you like this video, give it a thumbs up, let YouTube know that you liked this video so that it can reach more people. And we can all kind of read this series together. I also want to give a shout out to my patrons over on Patreon. Thank you guys for all of your support, especially through the past, like, month and a bit, because honestly, you guys are so helpful. I also love chatting in our private Discord server, so if that's something that sounds interesting to you, consider becoming a patron and supporting the channel. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. I will see you in, I think, a few days. I'll be doing a reaction to TXT's Japanese music video, so keep an eye out for that. And yeah, I will see you all later. Stay sunny, everyone. Bye!